Deputy Jennifer Murnane-O'Connor.
Tánaiste, can I ask you the measures that you are taking to support the retention of Defence Forces personnel, and if you will make a statement on the matter? Thank you.
Tánaiste.
I propose to take questions 81 and 120 together. The ongoing staffing challenges in the Defence Forces with regard to retention are fully acknowledged and well documented. In this, we are no different to other international militaries who, in a competitive labour market, are also experiencing similar difficulties. The immediate focus is on stabilising the numbers of personnel and to facilitate capacity for further increases. In light of the Commission on the Defence Forces report and the report of the Independent Review Group, I have also prioritised a significant programme of reform and cultural change within the Defence Forces to ensure that it is an equal opportunities employer, reflective of contemporary Irish society and providing a safe workplace. The strategic framework for transformation of the Defence Forces, approved by Government last week, which I have published, sets out the vital work that is underway relating to the transformation of the Defence Forces and outlines the necessary actions to be delivered by the end of 2024. This framework aims to support the transformation of the Defence Forces into a fit-for-purpose organisation to defend the state and meet the challenges of today and the future. There is a focus on strategic human resources and cultural change, which will serve to transform the internal working environments of serving members. It covers the recommendations made in the Independent Review Group report and the Commission on the Defence Forces report, together with measures to address recruitment and retention challenges and the legislative changes needed to modernise our Defence Forces. Action 50 of this framework sets out the retention initiatives to be actioned over the next 15 months. The implementation of early actions from the Commission's report in 2022, in addition to the most recent pay increases provided under the Building Momentum Pay Agreement, have contributed to significant progress on pay in recent years. Starting rates of pay in the Defence Forces compare very well to comparable rates of pay across the public service. In addition, there is scope for further income from duty allowances. All personnel of private 3-star able seaman rank are now paid the full rate of military service allowance applicable to the rank, and the removal of the requirement for that cohort to mark time for the first 3 years of that rank. The Seagoing Service Commitment Scheme for naval personnel and the Air Corps Service Commitment Scheme have been implemented to address particular difficulties that exist in certain specialist areas. A seagoing naval personnel tax credit was introduced in the 2019 Finance Act to incentivise seagoing duties for members of the Naval Service. This tax credit has since been extended to the 2023 tax year. Other non-pay initiatives introduced to address retention challenges include commissioning from the ranks, the re-entry of former Permanent Defence Forces personnel with specific skills, and extending service limits for privates, corporals and sergeants. Last month I secured sanction from the Department of Public Expenditure Delivery and Reform for the extension of private healthcare to all ranks in the Defence Forces on foot of a programme for government commitment and a Commission on the Defence Forces recommendation. In addition to access to medical, physiotherapy, pharmacy and dental care, the Defence Forces also provides fitness training and sports facilities across its installations. Fully funded opportunities to continue education, to gain professional and academic qualifications are also available. The 2023-27 Defence Forces Infrastructure Development Plan, underpinning the development and maintenance of the necessary operational training infrastructure with the highest level of financial resources in the state's history, the piloting of new work-life balance initiatives, including facilitating job sharing for overseas deployments, and the review of how career courses are conducted to make them more accessible to those with family commitments. A range of harmony measures have also been implemented, including hot desking for certain enlisted and commissioned personnel who have been posted away from their home address, and remote working is considered for a limited number of personnel depending on the circumstances. A further range of financial and non-financial retention measures are also being advanced. A review of mandatory retirement ages in all ranks in the Permanent Defence Force. Officials in the department are actively engaging with the Department of Public Expenditure in relation to the manner by which the recommendations of the Commission can be implemented. And as I can read it.
The balance of the reply will be included in the record. Thank you very much. Deputy Murnane-O'Connor.
Thank you, and thank you, Tánaiste. And I am learning, I can tell you, an awful lot tonight. Tánaiste, we have committed to implementing the action plan which arose from the Commission on the Defence Forces, but only just last week of of the just 2 naval vessels operating patrolling our seas, one discovered and intercepted a massive €150 million of cocaine on the MV Matthew, just off the coast of Wexford, Tánaiste, which borders Carlow. So it's very important that we get those mentioned. And I want to pay a tribute and compliment the Defence Forces for such a massive find. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And, you know, well done to all involved. But Tánaiste, we had to borrow a helicopter from the National Ambulance Service to carry out this important seizure. And I was just even wondering when I was reading about it and we've seen it in all the news, how many boats have made it ashore because of lack of resources. If we cannot put in place the tools for the force, and I know, Tánaiste, how committed you are, you know, we need to make sure this is urgent, and I do know your commitment on this. Thank you.
Well done to you in getting Carlow into that question.
I got it in twice.
Yeah, no, Charlie O'Connor would be proud of you. Tánaiste.
I want to pay tribute to all involved in terms of the joint task force involving the Defence Forces, the Gardaí and Revenue in particular, the deployment of the L.E. William Butler Yeats, 2 AW139 helicopters, Army helicopters, one which was in the medical service, but Army helicopters, and 1 CASA fixed-wing aircraft, 1 PC-12 fixed-wing aircraft, and a team from the Army Ranger Wing. So that's the full complement of the entire Defence Forces. And it wasn't that they suddenly discovered it. This was working with agencies internationally who obviously working with our own Gardaí and Defence Forces were monitoring this particular operation. And then our forces would have been alerted and the joint task force worked well together. You know, I think we have provided very significant resources now. 2 new ships, 2 new aircraft, sorry, C-295s. One wasn't a bit in the state of readiness yet, just purchased, 1 coming, 2 new ships. Like, there was an unprecedented investment in infrastructure, in barracks and so on. Sorry.
Deputy Murnane-O'Connor.
Thank you, Tánaiste. I just want to, in fairness, pay tribute to you too for your passion and commitment on this, and even your answers tonight for when I asked you about the strengthening of the Reserve Defence Forces, your commitment to that. Also, when I asked you about the support that we were given to the retention of the Defence Forces, your answer to that. But most critical too is that we get more women into the Defence Force, Tánaiste. To me, that is so important because I believe women can play a huge role in this. Again, I think it's something that we need to work on more, but I do welcome your commitment, and I think it is important that, as you said, that big find last week, I mean, a huge 150 million, I'm sure that had been worked on for months, but again, it was all agencies, all the different bodies working together, and again, I want to say well done to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Tánaiste, to conclude.
Would agree with the Deputy. I think we do need more women in our Defence Forces and at all levels of our Defence Forces, and we do need change in that respect. That is something that I'm very focused on, and the Independent Oversight Group is as well, particularly the role of women within Defence Forces and career progression for women. I think as Deputy Moynihan said elsewhere earlier, is vitally important that we develop mechanisms to facilitate that, and it cannot be put into the long term or into the medium term. And in terms of, I would make a general comment that I understand there are shortcomings, and I would agree, Deputy, there are. We have the infrastructure, we have ships, we have we're increasing that, but there tends to be a tendency that if there's any positive at all, we need to rush. I'm not saying but I just noted the commentary afterwards. We can't allow an hour pass without making it into a negative story as well. And I think a lot of people, young people, saw in the operation last week, particularly the role of the Army Rangers and so on, how all that training matters.
Thank you,
and how professional they are, along with the Revenue and along with the Gardaí, and that they did the nation proud.
Thank you very much.
We do have to provide additional services and so on like that. I get that, but I think we should keep the positives to the fore as well.
Deputy.